Hi, this is Joe Chambers. Thanks for watching Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage. And don't forget to like and subscribe below. It really helps. Did you kind of feel like you had just kind of climbed up the beanstalk and was in Wonderland somewhere? Because it can't be, you can't really be in the real world now, you know?
Well, my first thought, Joe, was what am I doing here? You know, like, well, he signed me anyway. So he signed me after that. And I was so excited. I remember that night, and then I get to my little condo. I get to my condo and I go, man, I got to get to bed early tonight. I'm cutting tomorrow at Studio A. So I get home and about dinner time, and I turn on the 6 o'clock news, breaking news everywhere. Elvis Presley dead. And I went, oh my God.
Yeah, it kind of just sucked the air out of the world.
Oh my God. I get down to RCA the next morning, and of course, ABC, NBC, CBS, their satellite trucks are there.
Did you record?
Not for hours. I mean, they were doing basically it was about 2 hours of.
Could you record?
We did. We cut some stuff, but I mean, Briggs, everybody there was, Chet was.
You know, Briggs just left here a few minutes ago.
I know he did.
And
yeah.
he
I heard
played
you
on
say that. He played on so many Elvis records.
Hundreds of records.
I know. Yeah. And then Chet, I remember walking in, and Chet was like holding an impromptu press conference in the corner, and cameras and microphones everywhere, and Chet was talking about producing Heartbreak Hotel.
I was sitting in Billy Sherrill's office on CBS, and he had a private phone behind his desk. Only his wife had, Charlene had, and the phone rang. He spun around. No kidding, really? Yeah. And he said, Elvis just bit the dust.
Wow.
And I was like, I mean, it just kind of like, it was just, the world kind of changed.
Yeah, the world just kept stopped for a minute there, didn't it?
Yeah. What was your first taste of success as an artist? What was?
Well, he put out 3 singles, and every one of them just went boom, boom. Nothing happened, And I was like, man. Chet said, "Don't worry, we'll get it." So Chet, he called me in his office one day, and he said, he goes, "I'm stepping down from Power here." He goes, "I'm kind of on my way out." He goes, "You probably ought to go with another producer. I think you'd have more success." And I didn't know some of the politics stuff that was going on there too, but. So I was like heartbroken. He said, he goes, "You ought to go with another producer." He goes, "I think you ought to go with Tom Collins." And Tom was producing Ronnie Milsap and Barbara Mandrell. He was an awesome producer. And I think the first thing we cut a session, and the first thing we did, boom, it was a top 10. It was a song called Your Memory. It went to 7, I think. And Chet called me in, and I go, "Oh, great." He goes, "You got your first top 10 hit?" And I go, "Yeah." And I was still touring with him, and he goes, "That's really awesome, man." I remember him sitting behind his desk. He goes, "That's great." And I go, "Yeah, it's so cool. It's 7 this week." And he goes, "That's great. You're fired." And I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you got to get out and do your own stuff." And I go, "You're kidding." And he goes, No. He goes, "You got to get your own band." And he goes, "You're fired." And I go, "Okay." And so he fired me. And then I got my band.
Just like that.
Yeah, he goes, "Congratulations, man." He goes, "That's great, you're fired." And I go, "What?" And we stayed friends. I went by and saw him all the time, and everything that happened, I'd call him, "Hey, Chet." We still were great friends.
He was kind of like your second dad.
Yeah. I would call him literally when I'd call him crying, almost going like, "Chet, what should I do, man? This label stuff, they're well, I don't know what to do. They're saying I need to," and he would say, "Okay, here's what you do," and I called him at night or anything.
Yeah.
He was like my dad, really.
Yeah, right.
I mean, in that respect. With Joe, when Holes in 96 or 7, when Holes in Floor of Heaven, fast forwarding a bit, but when that song, I produced that album. I went to Capitol, took that song to Capitol.
Who was the head of Capitol then?
Pat Quigley. Garth sent me over there, and he said, "I need to hear you. I don't know you or anything." He goes, "But Garth says I need to hear you." And so I played them Holes in Floor of Heaven. Next thing you know, I'm signed, and it's a hit record on radio, like boom. And it was Song of the Year that year, and Single of the Year at ACMs and CMA. But anyway, Chet really loved that song, and it made me feel so good. I'd be at his house, and he would say, "Hey, Leona," he'd say, "Come in here. Steve's going to do Holes in Floor of Heaven." And he'd go, "Will you do Holes in Floor of Heaven?" And I go, "Of course," And so she would come in, and I'd pick up his guitar and play it, and she would go. They would sit over there, and they'd sit and watch me play it, And I did that 2 or 3 times, and then Chet looked at me and he goes, "Well, I guess I did something right, didn't I? By signing you, he meant, you know.
I know that probably meant more to you than any Grammy or anything,
yeah.
you know. When I went over there after he passed, and he had his desk, which I think they have it set up at the Country Hall right now.
I think so, yeah.
And right in the center of it was a picture of you. You know, I mean, it's in the center of everything else. You know, there was other pictures there, but there was this little Polaroid.
That's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was, I mean, to know that that's what the center thing in his.
Yeah, he was something else, man. He was too cool. But I have to give credit to my dad too, because my dad was. I'm lucky that he passed on the music stuff to me. You know, my dad was a really good musician and a really good singer. I think he could have done something in this town, certainly as a singer and an artist. But he had a house full of kids before he had an opportunity. I wrote a song about that too. It's called "Caught Between Your Duty and Your Dream."
Boo Campbell, Glenn Campbell's uncle.
Yeah, Uncle Boo.
And so his daughter contacted me. She's really nice, Anita, I believe.
Yeah.
And she anyway, so she said, I got my dad's guitar, you know, and he taught Glenn how to play. Glenn used to go to his house.
Oh,
and,
I've heard Glenn talk about Uncle Boo.
Yeah, and so I said, you know what, I really want to put him in here for all the Uncle Boos.
I saw that, Joe.
You know,
I saw that.
because it's like your dad, you know, there's those people that stayed home and did what they needed to do, which allowed you and Glenn, who was another one that you were close with. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Glenn picked me up one time. He came to the hotel, and he's in a white Rolls Royce with red leather interior, and he pulls up and get in, guys, and he takes us out to his house.
When you got to play with him many times, but you got to do that great Wichita lineman lead.
Oh, you mean Galveston. Yeah, Galveston on 100 Greatest, wasn't it? The 100 Greatest?
Yeah, didn't you do it live or something?
That was Galveston. We did it on the 100 Greatest. I was the music supervisor of that show.
Oh.
And we did, so I called Glenn and I said, Glenn, your Galveston is number like 3 on the list of 100 greatest of all time country songs. I go, would you come in? And he goes, yeah, I'd love to do it. He goes, I'll play the lead. He goes, I'll take a solo. He goes, will you play the baritone part? And I go, are you serious?
Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
Heck yeah.
That's big right there for a little kid from Indiana. Are you serious? I go, I'm up here with Glenn Campbell, man. That's huge, you know.
Like I said, you've had a career. You've had a lot of careers. You had a career as a singer, as a musician, as a songwriter.
Yeah, the songwriting, you mentioned songwriting is so important to me. I mean, I started out being a player, but I kind of gravitated towards writing a little bit later, trying to cut my own stuff. And I mean, I cut my own stuff when I started having hits. I was lucky to get into a groove, but I never really pitched songs to other people very much. And I wrote a song called "You Can Dream of Me" with John Hall from the group Orleans, was #1. For #1, my first as a writer, so I'm like rocking as a.
Yeah,
luckily,
a big song with Garth too. Right?
Yeah, I wrote. We started pitching stuff to other people, and I started going like, oh my gosh, I'm getting holds and getting interest from other artists. Clay Walker was the first who cut something, and then Garth cut a song that Karen actually pitched to Garth. She sent it to him, and he cut "Long Neck Bottle," that I wrote with Rick Carnes, and then I wrote, "Holes in Floor of Heaven" came along about that time with Billy Kirsch, and I wrote "Where the Blacktop Ends" for Keith Urban, with Alan Shamblin.
That was a great song, Alan's a great writer too.
Yeah, thanks. That was a good one right there.
Really
I played
good.
on that record too. Clint Black and I wrote "Nothing But the Taillights." We wrote that one. There's nothing like having other people sing your words. It's really you know all about it, Joe, because you're a songwriter. You've had major cuts and some biggies yourself, but isn't it something to hear? The first time I heard that, I was like, man, I can't believe they're singing my words. That's crazy.
I just remember staring at the album cover like I couldn't see it. I couldn't see. I wanted to, if I could have put bread on it, I'd ate it.
Hey, I pulled in once, and there's a cute girl pulled in right beside me with her window down, summertime, and my song was on her radio, and I wanted to so bad to go, hey, I wrote that.
You hear that, Karen? Are you listening to that? So make sure she.
Oh yeah, I better be quiet. That was way before we were married, but I remember just thinking, man, that's my song on her radio. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's great.
But it's a cool feeling to hear somebody else singing your lyrics, isn't it?
So
it's hard to describe.
I should know this, but you're in is it the New York Songwriters Hall of Fame?
No, Joe, I'm not. That's a great hall. I was up there last year, though. I did perform. And was helpful in the induction of Bill Anderson. Who
I thought you got in.
No, I'm not in that Hall of Fame, but boy, that's a great one. That's the big Hall of Fame in New York, but I keep writing my songs, hoping maybe one day I'll be in there.
I'm pretty sure you will. The theme song that you guys hear at the opening of Musicians Hall of Fame backstage, and when the credits run at the end, if you look at the credits, you'll see it says theme song called Chit Chat was written by Steve and Ryan. Played on the whole thing, drums, the whole smear is Warnerville. So Steve, thanks again for doing the show for me as always, and y'all come back next week for another Musicians Hall of Fame backstage.